Okay, so Saturday, the 5th of June in the year 2021 is a day Jamaica's Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce will never forget. The 34-year-old punctuated her growing status as the greatest female sprinter of all time by becoming the second fastest woman ever at 100 meters. A two-time Olympic champion and reigning world champion over the distance produced a sensational 10.63 seconds at the third and final meet of the JOA J3A's Olympic Destiny Series in Kingston. Fraser-Pryce produced her familiar super start and powered away from the field to win by over 0.3 of a second as Natasha Morrison placed second in 10.95. Fraser-Pryce's effort propelled her above the Americans Marion Jones at 10.65 and Carmelita Jetta at 10.64, and she now trails only Florence Griffith-Joyner on the all-time list. Joyner's world record of 10.49 was set in 1988. Speaking after the race, Fraser-Pryce said, "I'm lost for words because 10.6 has been a dream, a goal. I've been working so hard, being so patient, and to see it finally unfold, just ecstatic." There were several reactions to Fraser-Pryce's effort. Jetta led the congratulations with this tweet: "I just woke to some amazing news. Shelly-Ann has done it again. I give credit when it's due. You have come back from having a child and showed the world how talented and driven you are. You are officially the fastest woman alive. Keep motivating these young queens. Hashtag Coach Jet." Now, speaking of young queens, a 21-year-old Sha'Carri Richardson would not be left out. She tweeted, "My presence in this track game is making history happen. No need for thank you." Joining us to analyze Fraser-Pryce's super effort, Leighton Levy, senior writer at SportsMax.tv. Can we start, Leighton, by getting a reaction from you on Sha'Carri Richardson's response to Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce's effort?
Listen, Sha'Carri Richardson she is what track and field needed. She's that oil in the ointment that makes everything a little bit more interesting. Because for her to even suggest that she's the reason why Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce is running 10.6s is ridiculous, because reality is has been a dream of Shelly-Ann. I remember an interview I did with her before she got pregnant, and she actually said that that was one of her objectives. She was at the Sportsman and Sportswoman of the Year award, and I was interviewing her afterwards when she said that one of her goals was to break 10.7. And now she's done it. So I don't know where Sha'Carri Richardson gets off in terms of thinking that she had anything to do with this.
Well, not to belabor the point, Leighton, but to be quite honest, Shelly-Ann had been in 10.7s since 2008 when she was 21 years old. And trying to make 10.6s and not making it. And here comes Sha'Carri Richardson, and now she makes it.
Well, it's a coincidence. I think it has more to do with her move to Ronaldo Walcott.
Yes.
I think it's more the cause here, because look, I mean, Sha'Carri is going to light fires because everybody's going to want to run faster based on what we've seen from her this season. But the reality is that a lot of these more experienced runners on the circuit have their own objectives, and they've had those objectives for a while. I mean, Smith, for example, had said to me personally after the World Championships in 2019, that she intends to get stronger and intends to run as fast as 10.7 come next year, which was 2020.
Yes.
She now has an extra year. So, each of them have their own objectives. And so it's more coincidence than anything else, but it certainly is interesting, her comments that has lit fires, because the Jamaican reaction to her comments on Twitter were off the chain. I mean, I read some of them on Saturday and I couldn't stop laughing. There are some of them where, of course, you can't repeat them on here. But
yeah, they were mad at her.
Yeah, I was laughing my head off on Saturday.
Yeah. Definitely. So Leighton, Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce, after the race, she spoke about, of course, being very patient as an athlete. She's 34 years of age, and I feel like the big question would be, can she actually, surpass, of course, Griffith Florence and, become the fastest woman ever? Does she have what it takes?
I think Shelly would be close to her red line right now. That 10.49 is beyond that. I mean, in real terms, that 10.49 has enough question marks over it to begin with. But in real terms, based on what I saw Shelly do on Saturday, maybe 10.5s is within reach, but 10.49 I think is beyond anybody right now. I mean, including Sha'Carri Richardson. I think that record is out there. It's one of those times that it's kind of like Marita Cook's 47-60, where you only hope you can get close to it, but in terms of surpassing it, that's not going to happen.
What can we expect from Shelly at the national championships in June? Because of course we see that she's just getting started.
Well, that's a big question here because look, she was surprised, and I'm sure Ronaldo Walcott, her coach, was surprised as well because she's been doing a lot of work to improve her speed endurance, to improve her mechanics, and to get to that level where she'd be able to break that 10-7 barrier, which she's now done. Now, how do you manage that? That's gonna be, I think, that's unknown territory for her coach, because then he's gonna have to be able to control how fast she runs at the national championships at the end of this month, and of course then maintain that workload and bring her to another peak for the Olympic Games at the end of July. So yes, she can run faster. Does she need to? I don't think she needs to run beyond that now, because right now all she needs to do is finish in the top 3 at the national championships and then be prepared to unleash her full potential in Tokyo. So can she go faster? Yes, but I think the timing of it is going to be very important.
Yeah, of course, over the weekend we did see Elaine Thompson-Herah winning in Florida and Dina Asher-Smith in Hengelo with fairly decent times as well. The stage is set for a pretty hot run for the women's title in the sprints.
Absolutely. I mean, it's one of the talking points all year, and then you can't leave out other people like Blessing Okabari and maybe Aliyah Hobbs from the United States as well, who are running really, really quickly as well. So, it's going to be a bang up. It's it could be actually the race of the Olympic Games, all things being equal, because these women are running fast. You saw Dina Asher-Smith run 10:92 yesterday. Elaine looks really good at 10:87, and they will run faster because I think we're at that stage now where some are beginning to unload for their respective national championships and then to prepare for the Olympic Games coming up. So we can expect faster times from everybody on that list that you just mentioned a while ago. So it could be, looking at Tokyo, where we probably see the fastest ever 100-meter women's race run since 1988, where Flojo ran in 10:54, and of course, I think 5th place was 10:97. We could see something very similar in Tokyo this summer.
And quickly, could you expand a bit, Leighton, on the point you made earlier on about the switch to Ronaldo Walcott from a training perspective being beneficial to her, because her MVP performances had been splendid. So could you, explain the point that you're making, that you think the switch away from MVP is actually benefiting her?
Well, sometimes change is good, because when you're used to a certain thing over time, you tend not to see the weaknesses in what you're doing. Changing an environment with an experienced coach. Remember, Ronaldo Walcott used to work at MVP. He would be familiar with Shelly's program, as she would be, in terms of 10 years of doing the same thing over and over again and get to a point of perfection. Now they had a chance now to look at what they were doing and how can they improve upon it. And we saw where clearly she's a lot stronger than before. She has a lot more strength and speed endurance. So maybe some of those things were being not necessarily overlooked, but were taken for granted at MVP. Now that she's in a fresh environment, she's able to now break down her race. She and Ronaldo Walcott breaking down that race and looking at where the weaknesses was. Shelly's weakest part of her race was the last 30 meters. We didn't see that on Saturday. Her pelvis was more rotated forward. She was keeping her torso upright, and of course her knees were coming up higher than ever before, which enabled her to run as fast as she did on Saturday. So we're looking at a situation where some minor tweaks based on the new environment allowed her to achieve the levels that she brought on Saturday, and that possibly make her go even faster in Tokyo.
And Leighton, what about Trayvon Bromell? Of course, he ran 9.77, a potential gold medalist at Tokyo. And I want you to also expand a bit on, the injury struggle that he had so far.
Well, Trayvon Bromell is like Wolverine in X-Men. Huh? He keeps rebounding from these horrific injuries. A quick history lesson here.
Yeah.
In high school, he broke his left knee. The following year, he broke his right knee and forearm. Of course, when he was at Baylor, he had bone spurs. Then he had an Achilles tear, which required surgery. Then he had a quadricep tear that required surgery. If you remember Lance, 2016, running the relay, he tumbled at the end of the race trying to outlean Japan and ended up hurting himself. So, the fact that he's able now to come back 2 years later and then run 9:77, he was born to run fast. And regardless of whatever happens to him, he's going to run fast. And based on what we saw on Saturday in Miramar, I think he's now this solid favorite. There were some people close by, Marvin Bracey, Ronnie Baker, a couple of kids from Africa, and of course, Andre DeGrasse from Canada. But right now, Trayvon Bromell has established himself as the clear favorite to win the 100 meters, because based on what I saw on Saturday, he'd probably run 9:70 or a little bit faster in Tokyo, or maybe even at the US trials later on this month.
Yeah, and quickly, just before you go, a quick word on Briana Williams, who for the third time in just about a week lowered her national record, the Jamaica record, with a finish behind Elaine Thompson in Miramar.
Well, look, Briana, this was work based on what Otto Bolden and I had the conversation about going into that 6-day period. This was more about training to test whether or not she could handle rounds going into national championships, and of course the Olympic Games should she get there. And of course she passed with flying colors, 11:01 on Saturday last week, 10:98 on Sunday evening, and of course 10:97 on this past weekend. She's in shape, and I think she's going to come to the national championships and run even faster, because she was tired on Saturday. You could see that. And of course I think that makes her perhaps the favorite for that third spot going into Tokyo.
Okay, Leighton, as usual, always great talking to you about track and field issues on the SportsMax Zone. We'll be in touch.
Well, definitely. And Marian, it's nice seeing you.
Yeah, so really outstanding performances from these Jamaican girls over the past weekend. Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce leading the way, and as we just mentioned, Briana Williams not to be left out.
Definitely. And Lance, we asked Leighton, well, I asked in particular about Shelly breaking, of course, Florence's record. And it's something that I actually want to see. I want to see Shelly break that record, because I believe that she has what it takes. She has a lot of potential. And I know it's far-fetched and it seems, but based on what we've been seeing with Shelly, it seems as if, there's no boundaries for her. And if she continues with that mindset that she has, she can actually achieve it. I'd love to see that. Yeah,
she's extremely determined and a warrior-like personality, and she knows how to deliver on the big moments. And we have to remember that Merlene Ottey, who was the first queen of Jamaican sprinting, was running very fast at 36 years old. So maybe Shelly-Ann can look at that and propel herself as a 34-year-old. We have a lot more coming up on the SportsMax Zone, including this huge story out of Trinidad and Tobago, where the Soca Warriors have miserably exited the World Cup qualifying. That and a lot more to come on the Zone after this.